This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. Today, I would like for us to go back in time to the very beginning of when Megxit happened. And the reason why I want to do this is because after reading this 52-page document and the judgment that came down, as well as the recent news around this high speed car chase in New York, I think it's very important to set the record straight once again because what Meghan and Harry have been doing, and they've been doing this now for a couple of years, is trying to rewrite history. I think it's absolutely important to remind everyone, especially those that have not been following this from the very beginning and that have been coming in the later stages, to really understand what happened. Because this story has shifted on so many levels because these two didn't get what they wanted. And they continue to keep pressing and doubling down on getting what they wanted. And I'm here to point out where they have faked things, where they have flooded the media, where they have lied. And I think it's important that people do not forget these things. So let's dig into how this all started so we all get up to speed to remind ourselves that these two cannot be trusted. The Queen was right. This woman is evil, and it's justified because what we have witnessed her do on a global scale is unconscionable. And the same thing goes for her husband, because let's not forget, he also went along with this and allowed it. So there is a level of psychopathy there that does show that they are capable of malicious intent. So on January 8th, 2020, Sussex Royal on Instagram dropped this bomb of Meghan and Harry intending to step back from being full-time working members of the royal family. Now, Meghan and Harry say that they felt compelled to release this information, but they also had released a full-blown website indicating their plans without getting any kind of approval. Now, I don't believe that they felt forced that they had to do this because the media was going to release this information. I call bullshit because everything else that they have said has been a lie. This also, too, was a lie because the website was ready to go, fully baked with their whole plan. As Meghan and Harry have lied about everything else, I don't believe that they felt that they had to release this information before the media had released it. I do believe that they dropped it on the day that they dropped it in order to ruin Princess Catherine's birthday. We know that Meghan is a petty woman and she will do anything to steal the spotlight away from any other royal member. And if she could ruin Princess Catherine's birthday, even better. That's how this woman thinks, or at least what we've witnessed her do. They didn't have to release the website. They could have made this announcement on Instagram and then work it out with the family, but there was no intention of working it out with the family. They were forcing the hand of the family by doing this. Let's look at this statement that they gave closer because it does detail exactly what their intentions were from the very beginning. We all know that this thought process was initiated by Meghan, and Harry just went along with it because she probably threatened to leave him because she wanted her financial independence. Anyhow, it says, after many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. Now, when you look back at this statement, the brass neck of this woman thinking that, oh, you know what? We're just going to start our own little division within the monarchy to do X, Y, and Z, which was profit. So this royal family with financial independence, you could look at it as Royal Family with Financial Independence Incorporated, because that's exactly what Meghan was trying to do. She wanted to start another company within this institution and go off and make her money. So here is where this doesn't work. The next statement says, we intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. Well, here's the thing. They wanted to take on a lesser role. So how could you say that you were there to fully support Her Majesty the Queen when you wanted to take a lesser role? What if the Queen needed you to do X, Y, and Z, and it was the same amount of work that you were doing before you decided to step back? I mean, this was all geared towards, we want to make money off of these charitable events that we were going to. There was no confusion. Well, I think they tried to spin it in a way that's saying, "Oh, yeah, we don't wanna take taxpayer money to pay for our security," because that seemed to be the one thing that they wanted to get rid of, so they had no obligation to do the things that the public wanted them to do, like follow tradition, maybe once in a while see baby Archie, or even attend things to cut ribbons. This woman wanted to be paid. And, as it goes on, it does state we now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronages. Well, how are you going to do that overseas? And that's the thing. Like, the Queen needed you in the United Kingdom. So for you to say that you're going to continue to honor your duty, you really can't because you're not in the United Kingdom. You can't be there half the time. And then it goes into saying this geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born. Well, how come you're focused on that? But, would have been a little bit more credible if Megan had said, well, I want our son to also know his American roots. There you have it. Their focus was intended on never leaving. They just didn't want to do the work. And then it continues to say, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity. This had nothing to do with space for the family. The focus was going off and profiting in this new entity that they were creating. So as it goes into bullshitting the public, the only thing that we can now come from this is that they really wanted to exploit the charitable endeavors. And when you read this over again, you realize how greedy and selfish Megan really is. So in the fact page of Their Truth, they out themselves by putting these two questions up and answering it. The question is, do the Duke and Duchess of Sussex earn income? Answer: no. Under the current structure and financing arrangements, they are prohibited from earning any income in any form. Right below it, do the Duke and Duchess of Sussex benefit financially from their charitable and cause driven work? No, see above, meaning they can't profit off of it. Like, why would you put that question up there? Like, if the intent was not to profit, which is exactly what they're doing with Archwell at this moment. And I've outlined that for you in several videos. But what is disgusting about this is that they were pissed off that they were not getting money from the charitable work that they were doing. But think about it this way, and this is why this wouldn't have worked, is because if you were getting paid for doing so-called charity work, then technically it's not charitable anymore, because charitable by definition means freely giving money or help to poor and needy persons. And this is what makes Meghan so gross, in the fact that she wanted to be paid for it, which no longer makes her charitable or kind or generous. When you look at the homepage of this website, when they launched it, you can see how self-centered these two are. Initially kicking off the website with this quote, "The goal is to focus on what connects us rather than what divides us." If that was not a gaslighting statement, I don't know what else is. But that was put up there in order to hit back at the royal family because Meghan wasn't getting what she wanted and she was causing a lot of problems internally. So, yeah, they were going to focus on what connects them so they could divide and break it up because that's all they have done over the last couple of years. And then when you look at how they laid out the contents of the website, you see where their priorities lay. So, top of mind was the community, which was a nice word to say, profiting and exploiting off of people. When you look at the first tab, you realize this is Archwell 1.0, in which it says, communities in all forms of people, geographies, ethnicity, gender, and varied socioeconomic groups have the power to affect change, to combat bias, and to promote shared values. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex recognize the unique perspectives through which different communities view the world. And through this is a time of unprecedented challenges and polarization. Our communities have the capability to deliver solutions that will build a better future for all. Through local and global community action, progressive change can be achieved far quicker than ever before. In 2020, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex planned to shape their charitable entity to respond to their pressing needs. After carefully considering a number of foundation models like the Clinton Foundation, Obama Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and having researched the incredible work of many well known and lesser known foundations, the Duke and Duchess are actively working to create something different, a charitable entity that will not only help complement these efforts, but also advance the solutions the world needs most. They look forward to sharing more with you in due course. Now, this was setting the foundation for the grift called Archwell, going back to the Q&A where they said, do Meghan and Harry benefit financially from any of their charitable works or purpose-driven cause work? No, see above, they don't under the current structure that they were under, and that's why they wanted to get out of it, was specifically to do this. Looking at the homepage and you see communities listed first, you know that that's where their priority was. And then in the middle, they put the monarchy, and you would think if they were really serious about doing their duty to the monarch and honoring her, they wouldn't put Meghan's ugly looking face there. They would have put the queen's face there. But no, Meghan wants her face there because she sees herself as the head of the monarchy. And then, of course, it was never about helping the Commonwealth. It was always about raping and pillaging the various countries all over the world for their financial gain. As you can see, Meghan looking like the devil, staring at that child, we know that she didn't care about these people. In fact, she hates these people. She can't stand being next to anyone who is of darker shade because Meghan is a racist. And for the few that had been following the saga in the very beginning, many of you saw through what Meghan and Harry were doing in calling out that these two were trying to monetize off of the royal brand. Now, here in the United States, many people were not paying attention to what these two were going at. So, for those that are looking back, you guys were absolutely right. It was a gaslighting exercise, which, in the monarchy section, the history of the British monarchy is steeped in tradition and pride as the oldest form of government in the United Kingdom. As they write, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is sovereign and was crowned monarch in 1952. And they go into saying the Duke and Duchess of Sussex deeply believe in the role of the monarchy, and their commitment to Her Majesty the Queen is unwavering. Their roles will continue to reflect their sense of duty and allegiance to the monarch and her legacy in the world as they transition into the new working model. As they move to become members of the royal family with financial independence, their commitment to the monarch is resolute, and they aim to continue to fly the flag for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as called upon. The British royal family has forged links with thousands of charities that Meghan was planning to go through and use to exploit. Public institutions, military associations, and professional bodies in order to highlight the vital work they do for their communities. These efforts help recognize and support the organizations and their contributions to society. And that's what the royal family represents. They draw the attention to causes that need the attention. Meghan and Harry understand that and think that just because they show up, smile for a couple of pictures, and then maybe seek to receive some type of monetary payment, that's what they were looking to do. Like, this woman really didn't give a shit about the work that she was doing. We know that. She didn't want to be a part of it. She didn't want to do any of the work, but then had the nerve to put this up on the website after disrespecting and not wanting to follow any of the traditions, which was so disrespectful at the time when she was a working member. Meghan didn't care that she was gaslighting the UK. This was all posturing for this facade she was painting here in the United States. And as you read on about the monarchy and how manipulative these two were into sort of pulling a fast one over everyone by talking about the patronages that are supported by the royal family, and then integrating themselves in the so-called community work, aka exploiting vulnerable people and making money off of it. Says here, it is for this reason the patronages cover a broad spectrum of causes. This is this cause driven work that at the time when Meghan was working as a royal, she was not getting paid for. Anyhow, a symbol of national pride that was so needed then and has carried over to present day. While there is a distinction between patronages and the community work the Duke and Duchess champion individually, there is sometimes overlap based on their interests. Now, you see there, they're starting to blend that line in which, well, we might be doing this cause driven work, but, it could overlap into supporting the monarchy. And this would have been treated like how so many treat their charities by putting it on the expense account. So her wardrobe would have been charged back to the monarchy. Private flying would have been charged back, and anything else, right? Whether it be the security, whether it be you name it. If there was a one drop of supporting the monarchy, maybe having a meeting and then being able to do whatever else she wanted to do, this was the goal. This was the goal. This was the grift the whole entire time. This low class viper gives herself away when they detail the previous tours and trips section, particularly in Southern Africa in 2019. Here, Meghan was carrying on with her private business while on duty for the monarchy. And guess what? Everything was covered by the monarchy. As you can see here, looking at the highlighted sentence, it says both private and official visits during this trip supported the goals across these countries. Further down, it says, the Duchess focused much of her private time on meetings and visits to address femicide, gender based violence, and the remedies so many are working towards within this region. So, folks, Meghan was off in her private time on the taxpayer dime. So, this last paragraph where it says the Duke also met with CAMA, an organization that he and the Duchess have worked closely with to empower women and to support girls' education. Mind you, this is something that Meghan roped in 2018. And for those that don't know what CAMA is, it stands for Compassion and Mercy Associates, in which they have services that include a variety of relief and development efforts, particularly around the African area. And in the past, they have been riddled with scandal of systemic child abuse, excessive beating, sadistic dental practices performed without Novocaine, molestation, and raping. Yeah, these are the organizations that Meghan and Harry choose to align themselves with and support, but speak out about none of this stuff, like the African Park's horrific abuse of its indigenous people, to which Prince Harry is yet to speak out on or do anything about. And it's why I bring it up again, because I do not want this swept under the rug, which is exactly what these two have been trying to do with flooding the media with their BS. Anyhow, back to this though. Harry and Meghan are elitist parasites, and they are on board with the World Economic Forum. From the very beginning, Meghan and Harry are aligned with this New World Order. I mean, you hear it in the language that they speak, from using words such as shared purpose, collectivism, losing your individuality and making it a part of the community. This is all Marxism, communism stuff that's going on at this moment. But they were very much upfront with being a part of this agenda, because on this website, I don't know if you guys saw this, but they were committed to following and fulfilling these SDG goals, aka Sustainable Development Goals, that you see in front of you from the UN that have been dictated from these globalists. Meghan and Harry were or are still committed to meeting these UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'm quite shocked to see that they had included this on the website and the royal family said nothing. But then again, Charles is a part of the Great Reset. When you go back to this Q&A of facts that they had on their website, you realize that they were really trying to pull a fast one over the taxpayer. As it says here, does their future financial autonomy extend to covering the costs of travel? All travel arrangements undertaken by the Duke and Duchess in their private time have always been and will continue to be paid for privately and not by UK taxpayers. With their transition to becoming members of the royal family with financial independence incorporated, This will continue to be the case. Wherever possible, and unless advised otherwise on security grounds, their logistical arrangements are undertaken via commercial air carriers, local trains, and fuel efficient vehicles, be it for official or personal travel, right? How is that working out, folks? This was all about, let's say, what the public wants to hear so we can get away with this grift, but that's not really what's going to happen. As we have seen, Harry using private jets because of security and protecting his family. How many times has he used that excuse? Looking at this next frequently asked question, why do they carry out official overseas visits and who pays for it? The Duke and Duchess proudly carry out official overseas visits in support of Her Majesty the Queen at the request of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, as is the case for all members of the royal family. The length and location of these tours are determined by the FCO and Royal Visits Committee. All official overseas visits are in support of Her Majesty's government's objectives and paid for by the sovereign grant, as well as contributions from the host country when appropriate. From the very beginning, this was a manipulation. Do you see how slick Meghan and Harry were trying to be from the very beginning to get away with getting their security and all the bells and whistles that came with royal life once they left? Right there, it states, well, if they're overseas and they have to do business, well, then, it's paid by the sovereign grant. Nothing we can do. I mean, we're doing our duty to the monarchy and the rules are the rules and there's nothing we can do about it. But at least we're telling you that we don't want to rely on taxpayer money, but really we do. These two knew exactly what they were doing from the day that they published that website. They had no intention on giving up the security, and they had every intention on having the taxpayer pay it. When they published this website with this paragraph, this was forcing the hand of Her Majesty the Queen. In this question, it says, does their future financial autonomy extend to covering the cost of security? It says, the provision of armed security by the Metropolitan Police is mandated by the Home Office, a ministerial department of Her Majesty's government responsible for security and law and order. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are classified as internationally protected people, which mandates this level of security. It is clear as day that Harry and Meghan always wanted the taxpayer to continue paying for their security. They put this together to paint this facade that, we want to be free, we want to be financially independent. But as we heard in 2021 in the Oprah interview, Harry's like, I never thought that they would take my security away. I was born into this life. And then in the court documents saying the same thing. So we always knew in the back of his head that, they would never take this away from me. Even though we're saying that we're willing to support ourselves, we're still going to expect the taxpayer to pay for it because I was born into this life and I'm entitled to it. And this is where you see this pretentious elitist attitude that people just can't stand and, quite frankly, don't deserve to support. We really should not be supporting this here in the United States, as we're seeing that New York, or they are pushing the narrative that future trips that Harry and Meghan take, New York's going to be paying their security. Bullshit they are. I'm telling you this right now. That goes in and that is confirmed that that's going to happen. There will be people coming out wanting to sue the city for misuse of our money. That's not going to happen. This is all trying to paint this facade that, they're so important and because they're so precious, we need to protect them. F you, Harry and Meghan. Nobody cares about you. You're really starting to piss a lot of people off with this, so calm down with these puff pieces because you're making New Yorkers erratic. I think it's really important that we call out and blow up this narrative that he's driving on now of not being able to bring his family back because he doesn't have security and he doesn't feel safe. I think it's also important to point out that in the very beginning, that was never the driver that was forcing him to leave. So for him to say, I had to leave and flee my country because it wasn't safe for us, in the beginning, it was getting away from the toxic British media who was hounding him. That's why he was leaving to get some peace, as he says here on January 20th, 2020.
The decision that I have made for my wife and I to step back is not one I made lightly. It was so many months of talks after so many years of challenges. And I know I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option. What I want to make clear is we're not walking away. and we certainly aren't walking away from you. Our hope was to continue serving the Queen, the Commonwealth, and my military associations, but without public funding. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. I've accepted this, knowing that it doesn't change who I am or how committed I am. But I hope that helps you understand what it had come to, that I would step my family back from all I have ever known, to take a step forward into what I hope can be a more peaceful life. I was born into this life, and it is a great honour to serve my country and the Queen. When I lost my mum 23 years ago, you took me under your wing. You looked out for me for so long, but the media is a powerful force.
From the very beginning, it was always about the media and the privacy intrusion that Harry had the issue with, and that was the platform that he was going on. I'm really glad that the justice made it very clear that the excuse of privacy intrusion by these paparazzi is a reason for why he should have this security back. It's not good enough of an excuse because the situation has to show that there's ill intent to harm, in which these paparazzi don't have the ill intent to harm. They just want to get the shot so they can make their money. That's it. I also think that Harry understands that he has to make it look extreme in order for it to appear that someone is trying to really hurt them. That's why we see, this fake car chase and the description around, we have these people on bikes, could cause us to get into an accident. It's really putting my life in danger. It really has to be life-threatening here in order for them to make that consideration to say, oh, he is at a high risk of getting into some type of really bad situation. And that's why he needs the security. But, saying that paparazzi and the press intrusion, well, you're a celebrity and you're just going to have to figure out different ways to get to here and there, or maybe tell your wife to stop calling the paparazzi to follow you around. We could start with that and see how it goes. See if things improve here on the press intrusion. You know what I mean? Harry and Meghan, predominantly Meghan, always had the intent on going back to Hollywood. So this excuse about press intrusion, and as well, he just wanted the space, as I read to you from their website. And this is what needs to not get lost in translation. This was never about safety for his family. This was always about keeping this status. And I think once this status was stripped from him, that was a blow to Harry and Meghan's ego because it did knock them down a couple pegs, but it also took away some of that access for them, such as intelligence, such as, having priority on the roads, you name it, the whole pomp and circumstance that he wants that his brother has. Harry's argument falls down because he's saying that he was forced to leave because it wasn't safe for him and his family, but he began with leaving to go overseas. He was always planning on moving overseas, not because they took his security away. That's why he had to flee, because it wasn't safe. Leaving was always in the cards, even before he was told that his security was going to be stripped away. So he's a liar. And what he's doing here is manipulating the public with all these various versions of this story, when the truth is, from the very beginning, he and the brain-dead wife thought that their plan was infallible and that the Queen was going to be like, oh, this is a wonderful plan. Go on over. We're still going to cover you. And Meghan, go ahead and use the corporate card on us. Meghan actually thought that the monarchy was going to give in to them because she published this website forcing the hand of the monarchy. In the back of Meghan's ignorant little mind, she probably said, oh, there's no way they're going to outright say no to us. Otherwise, I will accuse them of racism. And thought probably they would have been afraid, in which, thank goodness, the Queen slapped her down and said, no, you're not going to do this. It's either you're in or you're out. And Meghan didn't like that, hence the reason why she has executed on this 6-year revenge tour with the family. And she's still going at it. Harry won't give up and will not stop until he gets this security back. I mean, it's a lose situation, but these two idiots cannot put their egos aside to say, okay, we lost. They're doubling down and they're going to continue at it. We see it every single day, and they want us to forget the bad behavior from the very beginning. And that's where we can't let happen. And that's why I'm speaking about this again. Now, this last point that I want to make here on this topic is that after reading this 52-page document, it was insightful to understand that periodically there were these risk assessments that were being done. So, one of the very first ones that they had was in the month of February of 2020, or two of them that they were doing. So, one on February 14th and the other one on February 19th. Now, when you look back in time, no one knew that Meghan and Harry were going to Stanford, to Florida. And I do believe that during those circumstances, they legitimately were doing these risk assessments and found nothing because nobody was paying attention to them. But as they got the decision and they asked about where they were with their threat level, we started to see Harry and Meghan and their bizarre behavior, such as Harry writing in his book Spare that he, X'd off amount of Taliban, the fake car chase. We had also these call-ins to the police by Meghan, making these reports of, fabricated intruders, all this drama that they created around it. And my guess is the reason why that was happening was to affect these threat assessments so that his level would go up and hoping that his status would change. And that's honestly what I suspect was going on. Now, if he's going to continue to keep fighting this, you can bet that we're going to see some more wonky behavior from these two. And it might even get more extreme in the sense of trying to change the minds of the people who are making these assessments to bump up his threat level so he can get the security back. Keep your eye out, folks. I don't doubt that these two are going to do something else now that's going to be off the wall and fabricated to make it appear like they are so endangered and they need to be internationally protected again. We will call out the BS, but I just wanted to point that out. If you notice, when all this bizarre bad behavior happens that they, put together for the PR world, you realize that it is a manipulation. It is trying to paint this facade that they are hounded. And a lot of people are buying into it because they don't know the history like how we know the history. So that's why it's important to keep talking about it. Because, the more Meghan and Harry put out their narratives, the more, this other stuff gets swept under the rug as time goes on. So this is why I did this video today. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.